Hi yogis, Kristen Kabanuk here, coming to you from the floor at the Seaside Yoga Studio. Today we're going to do a Yin Flow. Now in Yin Yoga, this is a practice where we hold deep stretches for longer periods of time than normal to encourage deeper levels of flexibility in the body. Yin Yoga is a more meditative practice, but it is not necessarily an easier practice. Sometimes when we get into these really deep stretches, it can bring up a lot of mental angst, and it tends to be a good example of how we stay in discomfort. So especially when we're in this time, we're here in the midst of the COVID crisis, and a lot of us are having some anxiety and angst around that as well. So some of the lessons that we learn in Yin Yoga about how to stay in discomfort, knowing that it's temporary, are really good lessons for us in coming off the mat and trying to stay in that headspace of, I know this is temporary, I know it's uncomfortable, I know also that on the other side of this is growth and expansion. In the case of a Yin Yoga practice, that means more flexibility in your body, more energy that's able to get unstuck and unstagnant and moving through. And in terms of our lives off the mat, we also tend to go through that transformation when we come through something really uncomfortable, that transformative process. We tend to come out the other side of it having grown and expanded as individuals. So in my opinion, Yin Yoga and life have a lot of commonality here. And this is why I think that this practice is a really good one for this time. I'm going to use a couple of props today. I have a pillow to use as an example for those of you at home without any yoga props. I also have a block to do some demonstration with for those of you who might have a yoga block at home. And I also have a yoga blanket, but really any thick blanket that you can kind of wrap and roll up and use for support is going to be fine here. I also want to put out there that if anybody would like to order any props, I have a source that I can help you do that through, and we can do that at cost for you if you're interested. Just shoot me off an email, kristen@seasideyogaretreats.com, and I can help you put in an order for that. We're going to get started in Sphinx pose, which I'm halfway there right now. I know you can kind of not see my whole body here, but I'm laying out long on my mat. My elbows are folded up underneath my shoulders. I'm going to adjust this just a touch so you can kind of see how my hands are out in front of me. I'm going to be pressing deeply into the elbows and lifting high into the chest, maybe even tilting the head back a little bit. Now you're going to see me throughout this practice kind of keeping an eye on the clock. We're going to be in these poses from anywhere from 1 minute up to about 3 minutes. This is a pretty basic Yin class. Some Yin poses can be held for up to 5 minutes and even longer. Yin is a really different kind of practice than a lot of you, I think, are going to be used to seeing. So we're going to hold this first round of Sphinx pose for 1 full minute. We're going to come down and rest for 30 seconds, and then we're going to deepen the pose 2 more times, coming in deeper to the pose each time and holding for another minute. So let's start. Go ahead and relax the low body, relax the muscles around the spine. Press deeply into the elbows, lift high into the chest, close the eyes, relax the face, and we're going to be here for a 1 minute hold. I want you to just for this time, this minute, start focusing in on your breathing. Start sending your breath down through the lungs, so down into the rib cage, into the belly, spreading out the breath across the chest, maybe even up into the throat. And each time you exhale, feel yourself softening a little bit into that stretch. Really relaxing the muscles so that you can stretch deeper toward the joints and the ligaments and the tendons. That's what this practice is all about. Expanding to deeper levels in the body, deeper flexibility. We'll be here for about 1 more really big breath. Press through the elbows, lift into the heart, deep breath in. And on your exhale, we're gonna come down and rest for 30 seconds. We're gonna rest that right cheek down onto a pillow of your hands. Touch your big toes together and let your heels splay apart. Take a really big breath in here. On your big sigh out, open up the mouth and let your whole body weight melt into the earth. Now, for those of you who got enough from that stretch, maybe just come back and do that stretch again. If you would like to take it a little bit deeper this time, I invite you to use one of your props. And we're going to prop the elbows up a little bit higher this time, which means we're going to get a little bit more from this stretch. So if you look down at my hands, my elbows are on the blanket now, which is rolled, and my fingers are just kind of dangling to touch the earth. From here, same thing. We're going to press into the elbows, lift up high into the heart center. Relax the hips, relax the glutes, relax the muscles around the spine. Maybe tilt the head back, softening the throat. We're going to be here for 1 minute. Notice that tendency to want to come out of the pose the moment you start to feel discomfort. And instead, as long as you're not in pain, continue to breathe and stay in the pose. We'll be here about 3 more breaths. If your body's up for it, maybe even deepening that pose for these last couple breaths. Deep into the lungs. Last big inhale, press through the elbows, lift through the heart. On the exhale, remove the prop. Come down, this time your left cheek to your hands. Big toes touch together, heels splay apart. Take a really big breath in and a really big sigh out as you let your entire body weight release into the earth. We're going to come into our last round of Sphinx pose. I would invite you to use maybe a little bit bigger prop this time if you still want more. If you were getting enough from those previous 2 stretches, take one of those. If you'd like a little bit more height, maybe take your pillow or a bolster even if you have one. Line up the elbows underneath the shoulders. You're going to press deeply into the elbows, lift high into the heart, maybe tilt the head back. Take a deep breath in, relax through the hips, relax the glutes, relax the muscles around the spine, and we'll be here for 1 minute. Close the eyes, relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, and the jaw. Feel your breath filling up the lungs from the belly up through the rib cage, into the chest. If the head is tilted back, maybe filling the breath in through the throat, that 5th chakra, that center for voice and truth in your body. Feeling the energy spread out through the chest, which is the 4th chakra, that center for love and intuition in your body. Continuing to release through the low body, softening as the body acclimates to that deeper stretch. We've got about 2 more breaths left here. Maybe taking this opportunity to deepen in a little bit more by pressing deep into the elbows, lifting high into the heart space. 1 more. And then come down. Go ahead and this time rest your forehead to your hands. Take a really big breath in, a really big sigh out. Rest here for a moment while I set up the camera for our next pose. So from here, we're going to extend the right arm, and I've got all these props and now they're all in my way. We're going to extend the right arm out to the side. So the right arm is kind of in the shape of a T. We're going to use the left hand, which is anchored next to the chest, and we're going to roll over into that right shoulder so that we're laying on the side body. Now watch my legs, hopefully you can see them from here. We're going to either scissor that top leg back just so the arch is on the ground, or we're going to open up the hip and set the sole of that right foot on the ground. So let's go ahead. I'm going to come out of the pose. I'm going to leave you in it while I watch the clock and talk you through. Let's start by taking a really big breath in and a really big sigh out. We're going to be in this pose for 2 full minutes, starting now. Close the eyes. Notice what your mind did when I told you we would be here for a substantial amount of time. And let go of all of that. Feel into your body. Notice where you can release and relax a little bit into that pose. And start to notice that as we hold the pose, the body starts to acclimate. And as the body starts to acclimate into that first edge, we can then press in a little deeper toward the next edge. This is how we start to expand and encourage the deeper levels of flexibility in the body. We practice this on cold muscles. We do the flow at the end. We do this practice on the cold muscles so that we can be really aware of those edges, and that keeps us safer in our bodies. We're into our 2nd minute. Take a deep breath, sigh that breath out. We tend to hold the breath when we're trying to control a moment or if we're uncomfortable. We do that on and off the mat. So just soften the belly muscles. All that resistance you're feeling against the stretch, see if you can let some of that go and just really ease in, knowing that this pose is going to be over in about 5 breaths. Softening in, maybe deepening in. Last 2 big inhales and exhales. Last one, really big breath in, really big sigh out. And then we're going to roll back to the belly. We're going to extend the left arm out to the side. Right hand is at your chest. We're going to come into the opposite stretch. So use that right hand to press over into the left shoulder. Take a moment, pause. And then when you're ready, open up the hip. Step that right foot down. Close the eyes. Start to soften into the shoulder and the stretch. Take a deep breath. We'll be here for 2 minutes, starting now. Each time you exhale, feel a little bit of softening, a little bit of releasing of whatever resistance is holding you out of the pose, and soften and melt in a little bit deeper to the pose. Relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw. Tend to, when we're holding the breath, we also clench into the jaw. So notice if that's happening. Soften the tongue. Soften the eye muscles. And just be here. Your only responsibility in this moment is to breathe and stretch and connect. It's not about the length of the hold, the time that you're in the hold. It's what you do with this sensation in your body, how you spend that time. Notice what thoughts come up. Notice what tendencies come up to distract yourself during the silence. And try to just stay present here. Allow the yoga to work on you. Last 3 breaths. You can use this opportunity to take that pose a little bit deeper. See where that last little edge lives. Move into that space. One more big breath in, deep in the pose. On the exhale, roll back to center. Bring your hands next to your chest. We're going to press into Balasana, child's pose. The most important thing we do here is to round into the spine. We've been arching the spine and twisting the spine, so now we want to rest and neutralize the spine. Knees are together, arms alongside, forehead to the earth. You have some props and pillows here. If you'd like to bring a pillow or a bolster or blanket under your head, take it. We're going to be in this position for 2 full minutes, resting and recovering the spine. Notice the sensation in your hip flexors. And just notice the ease of this pose. Feel that sensation of recovery in this pose from that deep yin stretch. We try after each yin stretch to come into a recovery stretch to neutralize not only the body but the mental state. Notice if during this stillness your mind is trying to work and be productive. Instead, see if you can let the mind completely release all the thought. Replace the thoughts with your awareness of your breathing, of the sensations in your body, maybe of the sounds in the room. These things will keep you present and allow the mind a little bit of rest. Got about 5 more breaths here. Last 2, maybe sigh one of these breaths out, feeling a sense of release. Last one. And then we're going to slowly roll up to sit onto the heels. Take a moment to take any movement that your body is calling for, maybe some head rolls or some shoulder rolls, before we move into our next yin pose. So our next yin pose is I call it a Z-sit. I don't really, that's what we used to call it on our dance team, was our Z-sit. We used to sit like this for long periods of time. I have found that in my yoga practice, it's a really good way of opening up the hips and getting into some other poses that we'll move through as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick that right shin up so that it's toward parallel with the top of the mat. Now this left knee is going to touch the sole of the right foot. We're going to square up. So that top of that back foot is, I know you can't really see it, but the top of my back foot is kind of on the ground. So whatever you feel comfortable with here. I'm also going to have my block handy. If you have something else that can mimic what the block can do, great. Maybe a folded up blanket or a pillow even, and I'll show you how we're going to use that. To start, hands to your knees. Press through the sits bones or whatever part of you is touching the earth. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, start to fold down over that front shin. Now we're not going to start our hold time yet. I want you to really find that first edge. And what I mean by that first edge is the place where your body kind of naturally says, okay, right there, stop. Honor that. Hear that little voice, that little intuitive call, stop. Take a deep breath. And then if your body is up for it, maybe nudge into that edge a little bit, really kind of settling in. Now the block is here in the event that you want to give a little bit more to that stretch and maybe come down so that the forehead rests on the block. Remember, a block generally has 3 levels, well, always has 3 levels. High, medium high, and low. So if you're feeling extra flexible, maybe the head comes down to the block, or maybe the head even comes down to the hands. Wherever you've chosen to be, and maybe you're here and you're just folding forward a little bit, and that's perfectly fine as well. We're going to start our 2-minute hold now. So take a deep breath in and start to settle. Relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw. Maybe open up the mouth and fog up the mirror. Notice where you're feeling the resistance, the tension in the hips. Maybe it's not even in the hips, maybe it's somewhere else in your body. We also tend to feel mental resistance. So if you're feeling any of that, when it comes to this longer hold, notice. And redirect your mind and your thoughts down into your body. Notice the sensations. Notice the movement of your breath. Notice all the points of your body that connect with the earth, and maybe just start hearing the sounds in the room. These are the things that will connect you to the present moment. Eyes are closed, jaw is soft. We're into our 2nd minute here. Soften the belly. See if there's anywhere else you can release a little bit or relax as your body acclimates to the pose. We've got about 3 more breaths here. If there's any more space in this pose that your body's going to allow you to move into, take that opportunity now. One last deep inhale and exhale in the pose. And then we'll start to press up out of the pose. Now this next stretch may not be for you if you've got anything going on in your knees. So I want you to be very cautious and very aware. All we're going to do is walk the hands back. There are some of you that may be able to lay all the way back or come down onto the elbows. Let's be here 1 minute. Notice that tendency to want to come out. Unless you're experiencing those sharp, scary pains in your body, especially the knee, those people should be coming out of this pose If you're not having those, see if you can resist the tendency to want to come out and stay here. See if there's anywhere that you can release resistance and maybe deepen the pose. Last couple breaths. And then we'll slowly start to press up. We're going to take one more stretch here. It's going to be another minute hold. We're going to take the left hand across to that right knee that's out in front of you. We're going to circle that right arm up and back, lift the heart, and get as much twist here as you can. So we really want to twist into that low belly, turning the gaze toward that back right shoulder. And we'll be here for 1 minute. See if there's a little bit more give for you for the second half of the hold. Notice that you have to soften a little bit to expand that depth. You have to release a little bit, especially into those belly muscles. One more deep inhale and exhale. And then slowly, gently unwind back to center, and we're going to switch it up. So we're going to draw. If you need to shake anything out, shake it out, especially if you're tight in the knees. We're going to draw that left shin toward the front of the mat. We're going to take the right leg back. Remember that right knee is touching the sole of the left foot. Square up, sit up nice and tall, hands to your knees, inhale. And as you exhale, come into just the first edge, that place your body naturally says, stop. Take a breath, and with your body's permission, maybe nudge into that edge a little bit. Maybe the elbows come down. Remember, in Yin Yoga, we want to, instead of coming past the edge and having to back off, we want to come to the beginning of the edge with the opportunity to continue to deepen in. So keep that in mind. Let's start our 2-minute hold. Close down the eyes, soften the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw. Soften the tongue in your mouth. Soften into the hips or anywhere you're feeling any part of your body talking to you. Honor that speak. If it's telling you to come out of the pose, that it's a dangerous pose for you, listen and come out. Otherwise, maybe with each exhale, there's a really subtle nudge of the next edge. Maybe there's a big sigh out as some stagnant energy starts to work its way through and needs a release. We're into our 2nd minute here. See if there's any space in your body you can move into to deepen the pose. Gently. Carefully. Mindfully. Honoring those edges. And working with your body rather than against your body to find the deepest edge of that stretch. 2 more breaths. On the inhale, start to ease up out of the stretch. For those of you who want this back stretch, and I would say probably about 50% of you should not be doing this stretch. So for those of you who are feeling anything in the knees, come out. Maybe spend a little bit more time in the other stretch, and we'll be here for 1 minute. It may look very different on one side than the other, depending on, for me, believe it or not, it's depending on the toe joint of my left toe. So I'm getting a really nice stretch there on this side, where I was able to go back a little further on the other side. So the body is very different from side to side. Once again, honoring the edges as they call to you, and not assuming that we can go deeper than we can. Halfway through the hold. Continue to breathe, find some softness, some give. Last 2 breaths. And then slowly easing out of the stretch. We're going to take the right hand across to the left knee, which is out in front. Circle that left arm up and back. Lift through the chest and twist from the low belly, that space below the navel, all the way up. Turning your gaze toward the back left shoulder. We'll be here for 1 minute. Last 3 breaths here. Maybe there's a little more give. Expanding into that space. On the next inhale, unwind to center. We're going to come onto the heels and just take a moment here. If there's another position for you that's more comfortable, that feels a little more restful, take it. Otherwise, maybe just a balasana, child's pose. Remember, we're resting and neutralizing. So whatever it means for you to rest into the hips, we'll be here about 30 seconds. We're all going to meet in a position sitting onto the heels. We're not going to be here long. We're not actually staying here. What we're going to do is we're going to come into a position called Gomukhasana. Now that the hips are a little bit more open, we're going to come into Gomukhasana. The block or the pillow are going to potentially come in handy here. So drag them over, drag them into play. We're going to roll over. We're going to keep this area as tight as we can. We're going to sit as close over to that right hip as we can. We're going to wrap the left leg out and around and stack it. Draw that foot that's underneath you out from underneath you and square up on your sits bones. So what we're looking for in this pose is a stacking of the knees right on top of each other. This is easier if you're sitting up on something. So if you're really tight in the hips, you can sit up on this block. Remember, it has 3 levels. You can sit up on a pillow. Pillow's not going to give you quite as much height as a block would or can, but it is going to give you a little bit more softness. If you need to open it out a little bit, open it out, whatever is going to give you the stretch that your body is calling for. So let's stack the knees. We're going to take one hand, it really doesn't matter which hand, down onto the knee, the opposite one on top. We're going to roll the shoulders down and back, close the eyes. We're going to be here for 3 minutes. So starting to expand. Now notice what happened in your mind when I said 3 minutes. And bring your mind back to a neutral space. That 3 minutes has started. So just like we're sitting in meditation, coming into the meditative space, the silence, the peace. If we think of the thoughts kind of like clouds in the sky, we can allow those thoughts or those clouds to pass one at a time. And then we can start to observe the blue space of sky in between the clouds. And the metaphor here is that can be the space between the thoughts. That space between the thoughts is what we seek through meditation, through our yoga practice. That clear space where there's no thought, no effort. Breathing into that space, spending a little bit more time in that space between the thoughts, with each breath, in each moment, before the next thought comes along. And when the next thought does come along, allow it to be and then allow it to pass. Come back to the space between the thoughts. Notice what's happening in your hips. Is your body starting to soften and acclimate a little bit? If you're sitting on a prop, would your body allow you to remove the prop? If not, leave it. Relax the jaw, the cheeks, the eyes, the forehead, the scalp. We're going to continue to be here for a little while. How does your mind stay knowing that the discomfort is temporary? Think about how open and expanded the hips are going to feel after this temporary discomfort. And now again, if you're feeling any sharp, scary pain, come out immediately and carefully. Otherwise, just stay. Relax that fight or flight mechanism in the belly, softening those core muscles. Deepen the breath, connecting the breath into the belly, the rib cage, the chest. Maybe the breath is coming a little easier now that you've acclimated to the pose. Each time the jaw clenches, relax, release, soften the tongue, and breathe. Got 5 more breaths here. Now's your time to maybe take it to that last edge, deepening the stretch. Maybe folding forward a little bit into the hips. Maintain a steady breath. One last inhale and exhale. If you're leaned forward, come back to neutral. Gently open up the eyes and very carefully start to unwind the legs. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide. Remember our recovery pose. So we're just going to bounce the knees a little bit, maybe send the head around a little bit. Deep breaths. You can spend some more time doing this, or you can root down through the sits bones, lift the heart, and on the exhale, reach the heart down toward the arches of your feet. We're going to have 1 minute here in this stretch. Letting the heart melt deeper and deeper toward the arches of your feet. Noticing the very different sensation in the two hip openers, the one we were just in and this one. Taking this little counter pose. Soft, easy breaths. Deepening when and where you can. If your intuition says that's okay. Last inhale and exhale. And then slowly walk up and out of the pose. Take your feet to the earth and just kind of let the knees rock side to side, neutralizing into the hips before we come into our other long hold and go Mukhasana. Take whatever movement you feel like you need. You're going to meet me back onto your heels. So let's go ahead and find this position. We're going to take the same thing to the other side. So keeping as close in, as tight in as you can, we're just going to rock gently and slightly over to the right. We did that last time. We're going to rock over to the left. And we're going to wrap the right leg out and around. Take the foot out from under you, set it aside, and then stack the knees as best you can. This side is going to feel really tight compared to where we ended up on the other side. So maybe toss that blanket up underneath you, or that pillow, or that block. Try to stack the knees right on top of each other. That's the goal. Listen to your intuition. Don't overdo it. You might even need a little blanket under the bottom knee. Stack the opposite hand that you had before down onto the knees. Sit up tall. Relax the shoulders. Close the eyes. Relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, we'll start our 3-minute hold. Notice how this pose feels at the onset. Be very aware. This one for me is much tighter. Notice if that's true for you, or if this side feels more open. Really getting out of the mental chatter and really tuning into how your body feels. So getting out of the head and into the body, the physical body. That's the practice of yoga. Quieting the mind by distracting the mind into the body, or redirecting, refocusing into the body. Soften into the hips. Nudge into the edges. For those of you who are feeling really good in this pose, if you want a little more, you can lean forward a bit. Or a lot. Notice if you're clenching the jaw or holding the breath, relax, release. Knowing that this discomfort is temporary. And knowing how good we'll feel on the other side of it. If you have props supporting you, you might try releasing them. Seeing if your body is acclimated into that deeper edge. Maybe it hasn't, and that's okay. We're into our last minute here. Maybe deepen the pose, maybe lean forward a bit. Notice the peace of the silence, the stillness. And try to remember the last time you were still for 3 minutes. We don't allow ourselves even that long when we're conscious and awake. One more deep breath in, deep exhale. And then very gently, very slowly start the process of unwinding. Let's bring the soles of the feet together again. Maybe bouncing the knees, taking the head around a couple of times. And when you're ready, rooting through the sits bones, lifting into the heart, and folding into the inner thighs. We'll be here 1 minute. Last 2 breaths. And then slowly start to press up. Place your feet out in front of you with your knees apart and just kind of move the knees side to side, or whatever it takes for your body to come back to neutral, to take the edge out of the hips, out of the inner thighs. And now that we've moved through the yin portion of our practice, we're going to flow a little bit. We've really had the opportunity to get some stagnant energy or some channels in the body opened up so that stagnant energy can start to move through. And that's the purpose of the flow portion of this practice. So let's go ahead and come into a hands and knees position. And let's start to flow through a couple of rounds of cat-cow. Inhaling as the belly sinks, chin and tailbone lift. Exhaling as the spine reaches and rounds. 2 more of those. Starting to coordinate breath with movement. 1 more. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, and come into your first downward facing dog. I invite you in your first downward dog to pedal out the feet a few times. Take a deep breath in and a deep sigh out. Bend the knees a lot, lift through the heart, and then press the chest back toward the thighs. On the inhale, rock forward into a lazy up dog. Lay the legs down, spread out across the chest, maybe a little rock and sway. Take a big breath in, and on the exhale, wide knees, child's pose. Let's do that again. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, rock forward, lazy up dog. Exhale, take it back to child's pose, finding your flow here. 2 more cycles. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, rock forward, lazy up dog. Exhale to child's pose. 1 more cycle. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, rock forward, lazy up dog. Exhale, let's spend a couple moments in a wide knee, child's pose. Walk the hands over to the right side of the mat. Deep breaths in and out. Walk the hands over to the left. And come back to center. Inhale to hands and knees. Exhale, downward dog. Float the right leg up to the sky. Take the right knee to the right elbow. And then send it back. Take the right knee to the left elbow. Send it back. Bring the right knee forward. Place the foot. Drop the back knee. Open up into Janusirsasana, opening up the chest. And then exhale, release. Rock back into a runner stretch, half split. Lift the heart, melt to the thigh. Inhale, rock forward. Open up the chest. Exhale, release the hands to the earth. Tuck that back toe. Lift the right leg back up to the sky, and then place the right foot to the ground. Take the left leg up. Bring the left knee to the left elbow. Send it back. Bring the left knee to the right elbow. Send it back. Draw the left knee forward. Place the foot. Drop the back knee. Open it up into Janusirsasana. Hold. Breathe. And then release. Drop back, half split. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, melt to the thigh. Inhale, rock forward. Open up the chest. Exhale, release the hands. Tuck the back toe. Send the left leg up to the sky. And then back down to the earth. Inhale, rock forward, lazy up dog. Exhale, child's pose, knees wide. Thread the right arm underneath the left arm. Right cheek to the ground. Send the right arm forward, take the left arm underneath, relax and breathe. Send the left arm forward, make your way back up to hands and knees, get steady, get strong, try not to lock out the elbows, especially if you're hyperextended like me, take a little softness there. Tuck the right toes back against the mat, lift through the heart, and then pivot the right heel to the ground and take your right arm up to the sky. Find your balance. Let's take that top arm around in a couple of circles, opening up the shoulder and the chest. And then extend that right arm to the sky, float the right foot up to the sky, and either work your balance here or take that foot, expanding into tiger tail. Breathe. Extend the arm and the leg. We're going to rotate to the front and then back to hands and knees. Tuck the left toes back against the mat, lift through the chest. Pivot the left heel to the ground and expand the left arm up to the sky. Take some big rotations with that arm. Try on the bottom standing elbow not to lock it out. Breathe. Expand the left arm to the sky. Float the left leg up to the sky and either work your balance here or take the foot coming into tiger tail. Breathe. Extend the arm and the leg. Come back to center, back to hands and knees, 2 rounds of cat-cow. And this time, Balasana, child's pose. Knees together, arms alongside, forehead down. Maybe a little rock. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. Float the right leg up to the sky. Bring the right knee to the outside of the right wrist, kicking that shin to parallel with the top of the mat. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, dip into pigeon pose. It wouldn't be a yin practice without a pigeon pose, right? Take a deep breath. Exhale, melt in. If you have your block handy and you want it, under your forehead, take it. Let's be here 1 minute. Same principles apply here. So each time you feel the resistance, soften into that resistance. Notice your body acclimating to that deep stretch. From here, we're going to start pressing up off that front leg. Take a little back bend here. Inhale, lift up through the heart. Maybe tilt the head back a little bit. Walk that right hand inside the right knee. Circle the left hand back. Catch that left foot. If it's available, quad stretch. Feeling the opening in that left shoulder. Breathe. And then gently release that foot. Tuck the back toe. Send the right leg up to the sky. Open out the hip. And for those of you who would like to drop over into wild thing, take it. And then come back around. Downward facing dog. Let's take a vinyasa. Inhale, rock forward to plank. Maybe come down through chaturanga. Inhale, scoop up to a back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. Let's take that again. Inhale, rock forward to plank. Lower down to chaturanga or your belly. Inhale, scoop to your back bend. Exhale, downward dog. 2 breaths. Float the left leg, bend the knee, place the knee to the outside of the left wrist. Inhale, lift through the heart. Exhale, melt down into pigeon pose. We'll be here for 1 minute. Relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jaw. Soften the tongue. Relax the neck. Move into the space that your body is opening up for you in this pose. That will be really subtle. You won't even be able to see it in another person as they are moving into those spaces because it's so subtle. 3 more breaths. Last inhale and exhale. And then we'll start pressing up off that front leg. Find a little back bend, lifting out through the heart. Maybe the head tilts back. Staying up on top of the hips, walk the left hand inside that left knee, circle the right hand back, catch the foot, take the quad stretch, shoulder opener. Gently release the foot, plant the hands, send that left leg up, 3-legged dog. For those of you who want wild thing here, drop that left foot, open up the stretch, and come back around. Downward facing dog to vinyasa. Inhale, rock forward, lower down. Inhale, scoop to your back bend. Exhale, downward dog. Again. Last one. Inhale, rock forward. Lower down to your belly or chaturanga. Inhale, scoop to your back bend. Exhale, downward dog. 2 breaths. Inhale, rock forward. Lazy up dog. Rock and sway a bit. And this time, knees together. Arms alongside, forehead down, Balasana, Child's Pose. Slow the heart rate by slowing the breath. And then slowly come up to sit onto your heels. Sit over to your right. Send your legs out in front of you. Go ahead and lay onto your back. And hug your knees into your chest. Take a moment with your knees hugged into your chest to rock a little side to side. Maybe take the knees around in one direction and then the other. From here, open your arms out to a T. Let your knees drop over to the right and gaze out at your left hand. Deep breath in, deep sigh out. Nice, relaxed, gentle twist. Inhale the knees to center. Exhale, drop the knees to the left. Gaze out to the right. Breathing into the belly, the rib cage, and the chest here. Last couple breaths. Bring your knees back into your chest. Give yourself a little hug. Any last pose you need here before your Shavasana, take it. Maybe it's a happy baby. Maybe hugging one knee at a time. Dropping into Shavasana as you feel ready. Taking up a little bit of space on your mat. Palms open to the sky and a relaxing external rotation of the shoulders. Take one last deep breath in. This time with the exhale, release control over the breath, the body, and the mind. Release any last resistance from the physical body, any last effort or tension. And release any last thought from the mind, coming into your conscious state of relaxation for a 2-minute Shavasana. Start to bring awareness back to your breathing. Notice how your breath feels and moves in your body. And then expand that awareness to your physical body by moving your fingers, your toes, your wrists, your ankles. If you'd like a last stretch, reach your arms back, feet forward, reaching and stretching for opposite walls with a big breath in. And with an exhale, hug your knees into your chest. Take any last movement on the low back and sacrum that you'd like here, maybe a rock or a circle with the knees. Making your way to seated as you feel ready. Taking a strong, seated, rooted, grounded position by rooting through the sits bones, sitting up tall into the spine, relax the shoulders. Close down the eyes, relax the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, your jaw, and bring your awareness and your breath into your heart center. Expanding into that space now, noticing how you feel physically in your body, noticing the space that you've created in your mind. Maybe taking the lesson of temporary discomfort, expanding and growing from that temporary discomfort, knowing that it's temporary, with you off the mat into your day-to-day life. As we power through whatever struggles we are dealing with grace and ease. Bring your hands to your heart center. Take a last deep breath in. With your deep exhale, release anything left in your body that you no longer need to carry with you. Thank you for practicing with me here at Seaside Yoga. Namaste.